We all know Cordillera has a strong indigenous peoples movement. One key organization that has helped advance indigenous peoples' rights in the region is the Cordillera Peoples Alliance, which now federates more than 100 grassroots peoples organizations. The alliance was born out of upland indigenous peoples' defense of their ancestral land from intrusive and destructive developments projects of the Marcos regime in the late 1970s and 1980s. This statement meant that these organizations that had been built is just to protect their ancestral land from the Marcos regime. So in the late 1970s, people of the Cordillera, particularly in Bontoc Mountain Province and Kalinga, rose up in arms against a planned series of big dam projects along the Chico River, the cradle of agriculture in both provinces. These dam projects of the Marcos regime would destroy a century-old rice fields, some residences, and some of the ancestral sacred grounds. Some Cordillera leaders who were in the front lines of defense against these threats to their homeland lost their lives. One of them was Kalinga's chieftain Maclean Dulag, who was assassinated by the Marcoses soldier on April 24, 1980. Alongside the Chico River conflict, the Tingians of neighboring Abra province also have to keep vigil over the forest lands and river being threatened by another Marcos project. Marcos regime had embarked on a paper mill project requiring volume of timber from Tingian forest. Chemical used in milling paper also contaminated river and other water system. The Tingians tried all legal means to stop Sellafield Resources Corporation but to no avail.
The Cordillera People Alliance was established in 1984 to promote self-determination and defend ancestral land for indigenous people. The alliance used indigenous socio-political systems like the Bodong Peace Pact and PAGTA Agreement and elder roles to unify and strengthen the movement. The main goal was to advance a people's movement for ancestral land and self-determination. The alliance launched major campaigns such as Chico and Cellufield issue, which inspired public educational forums on ancestral land, self-determination, and collective rights. The leaders of the alliance emphasized that the problems in the Cordillera are not isolated from wider Philippine and global realities and sought to break the indigenous view of tribal society. After the Marcoses were ousted in 1986, the Cordillera People Alliance lobbied for inclusion of indigenous peoples' rights in 1987 Philippine Constitution, leading to the enactment of Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act in 1997.
With Marcos gone, the Cordillera People Alliance has been instrumental in aiding indigenous communities like the upland folk in Itogon and the Ibol people in resisting the threats to their ancestral land, such as an open-pit mining and dam construction. Despite facing challenges, they have successfully organized petitions, dialogues, and mobilization to defend their territories. While there are ongoing efforts from regional autonomy, the alliance emphasizes that true autonomy cannot be achieved if indigenous rights are violated and ancestral lands are exploited for profit. Leveraging their expertise, the alliance continues to assist other indigenous groups such as the Tingians and Abra provinces in devising strategies to protect their lands from similar threats like deceptive mining exploration.
Hello everyone. The report talks about the continuous oppression of the indigenous people in Mindanao, Philippines. Especially the Lumans have to endure. Lumans, a generic term derived from the Cebuano language, which literally means native of the place or one who is born of the earth. The term suggests an identity that is intimately connected to the native land, Many tribal communities name themselves after the river where they reside. The poor peasantry, particularly the indigenous peoples, who comprise around 14 million of the Philippines population, of which 61% live in Mindanao, are impacted by the post-colonial government's continuation of oppression through the implementation of colonial-era agrarian policies. Even though the Lumads are the indigenous people of the Mindanao, they have historically been stigmatized as non-Christianized and non-Islamized IPs. They consist of at least 18 local ethno-linguistic groups that are rightly recognized as the original inhabitants of the mainland of Mindanao outside the Moro provinces. Land grabbing and government relocation programs that encourage internal colonization of their native lands and territories are among the difficulties they face. Many Lumad communities are marginalized by the government resettlement, which promotes internal colonization of their ancestral lands and territories. That's all. Thank you.
The dream to reclaim their ancestral domain is at the heart of the Lumad struggle for self-determination. They struggle to regain the ancestral land where their forefathers grew up, raised their families, and were buried. Ancestral land for them is very sacred because it is where the spirits of their ancestors roam. Thus, they spontaneously nurture a certain spiritual relationship with their ancestral land as part of relating with their ancestors. For them, the ancestral domain does not only refer to the piece of land but also includes the spirit guides that dwell in the trees, rivers, and lands. They consider as sacred all the resources on, above, and beneath the ancestral lands. On the other hand, the indigenous Muslim Filipinos were also displaced with the coming of the Christian settlers in the Mindanao. They felt that the central Philippine government, dominated by the Christian politicians, was blind and deaf to their grievances for national recognition, justice, and equality. They perceived that the central government was unjustified treating them as socially lower than Christian Filipinos.
The excerpt outlines the historical context and ongoing struggles of Muslim Filipinos and indigenous people in Mindanao, particularly regarding their quest for self-determination and preservation of cultural identity. It highlights the failed separatist movement led by Dato Tog Matalam in 1968. The establishment of the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, also known as ARMM, and the continuous challenges faced by Lumad and Muslim communities due to government-led development projects. These projects often result in displacement, cultural erosion, and marginalization of indigenous peoples who seek recognition of their human rights and the ability to govern their communities based on their own customs and laws.
Religious opposition persists in Mindanao, where tribal, Islamic, and Christian communities coexist. The Lumads and Muslim Filipinos are the minority communities, comprising only 20% of the total Mindanao Sulu population. Conflict between Muslim and Christian communities are often framed as religious differences, but this perception is not without basis. The Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or MILF, allegedly formed a tactical alliance against the government, and the killings and kidnappings of Christian personnel by Muslim fundamentalist groups are evident. The Muslim struggle for peace is inseparable from the dream for liberation and a sustainable future. But too much attention have been given to insurgency problem. The urgent ecological issue need to be prioritized as top priority agenda for Mindanao, benefiting both rich and poor. Clean Dulag opposed the dam project and he rallied Cordillerans to join him in the cause. Dulag's objective was that the land called home always remain intact in the hands of its inhabitant. His death sparked the abandonment of the dam project because the World Bank, which was supposed to fund the project, withdrew. Dulag was a perfect illustration of a person waging struggle relentlessly even when the current was against him.